Good morning, everyone. Sorry for being late. It was connectivity issue, obviously. There was no connection in the college. Uh, Today I'm going to start the development of gastrointestinal tract. Before going to the development, who is going to tell me something about the folding of embryo or the general embryology part, so that we can move ahead with the systemic embryology? Anyone? Okay, let me show you a model so that you can recall. Are you able to see the screen now? See, here you can see two models. Is it visible, students? Please respond so that I understand that you are getting my point or not.
It is visible.
Okay, fine. So see, this model is showing you something. Can anyone explain this model, please? This model you
Ma'am,
must have seen. Yes,
ma'am, it's showing the folding of embryo.
folding of embryo. Okay, fine. What all structures can you visualize here?
Ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm, allantois, yolk sac.
Okay, fine. Um, See, I'll explain this model so that you can have the basic idea how the GIT develops. Okay, this model is basically showing you the folding, head and tail folding of an embryo, of a developing embryo. See, this is the head folding and this one is the tail folding. Now, by the sides are lateral foldings. There's a different model for the lateral foldings, but here we are concerned with the head and tail folding so that you can understand how the head and tail folding causes the things to orient themselves according to the adult structure. Okay. See, this is the developing brain. When we talked about the development of face, we have discussed the side view showing you the developing brain and the developing pericardium. This is the thing. Developing brain over here, and this bulge is developing pericardium. And the gap between the two is the stomata. Right? So this is the developing brain with the forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, and the spinal cord shown here. Now this dark band-like structure is the notochord. Fine. This is the amniotic cavity. Blue is the ectoderm, and the black one is endoderm. So GIT is basically mostly endodermal in nature because it is developing from the yolk sac, and the yolk sac is endodermal. This is the yolk sac, and the part which is forming the primitive gut, this part is the primitive gut, this enclosed portion. Can you see this enclosed portion along with the allantois is the developing primitive gut? Okay, and this gut is having communication with the yolk sac through another duct. This duct is known as vitelo-intestinal duct. This one is vitelo-intestinal duct, right? This band-like structure next to the pericardial fold and the heart tubes is septum transversum. Now, we are concerned with the developing GIT, and this is the portion we are required to understand along with the allantois, that is allantoic diverticulum. Okay, so going back to the previous slide, the learning objectives for this class is to basically describe the development of primitive gut. By the end of the class, you should be able to enumerate or describe the parts of GIT, developing GIT, along with the development, how it takes place, partitioning of cloaca, and enumerate or list the derivatives of the foregut, midgut, and hindgut. Obviously, it is not possible to cover today the liver, pancreas, and extrahepatic biliary apparatus, but we'll talk about it in the next class, inshallah. So, we'll talk about the rotation of midgut and associated anomalies related to the development of GIT. So, as I told you, gut tube is basically endodermal in nature, derived from the yolk sac because of the head and tail folding. Head and tail is also known as cranial and caudal, because in embryology it is cranial and caudal instead of superior, inferior, or anterior, posterior. It is cranial caudal. Then somatic mesoderm gives rise to parietal peritoneum, and the visceral one gives rise to the mesenteries. Now this is an enlarged view where you can see the partitioning of the gut with the stomodium and the cloacal membrane. Now this is endodermal structure in direct communication with the yolk sac, and the part which lies just in front of the yolk sac is the midgut. See, the partitioning is shown here as the yolk sac having direct communication with the midgut, whereas the part anterior to the midgut is foregut and the part posterior to it is the hindgut, right? Now this foregut is open to the exterior after the dissolution of this stomodium or the buccopharyngeal membrane, and it opens to the exterior, whereas the cloaca is separated from the outside by the cloacal membrane. So this dissolves and the anal opening is open to the exterior, right?
The slides are not changing.
This problem is always there. Maybe some internet issues are there in the department, and when I took first class, the slides were changing now. Hello, can you see
In
now?
the last class also the same problem was there.
I'm talking about the very first class I took. Then there was no issue.
I don't remember.
कोई बात नहीं. Now, actually, I have to stop this slideshow. I just have to move the slides manually, and then you can see like this only. Is it visible now?
Ma'am.
Hello? Visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Okay. So I'll just enlarge this slide so that you can have a proper view, because slideshow always causes problem. So अभी तक कुछ समझ में आया जो ये मैंने बताया था, या इसको दोबारा एक्सप्लेन करूं? Okay, I'll explain it again. This part is the developing primitive gut, and this primitive gut is derived from the yolk sac. So it is in communication with the yolk sac through a duct that is known as vitellointestinal duct. Now the part which is anterior to the midgut is the foregut, and the part which is posterior to the midgut is hindgut. Foregut is open to the exterior after the dissolution of buccopharyngeal membrane, and cloaca is open to the exterior after the dissolution of the cloacal membrane. Right? Again, one very important thing over here is the hindgut actually is divided into two parts by the allantoic diverticulum. This allantoic diverticulum is responsible for the division of hindgut into hindgut proper and the cloaca. That is, the part which is posterior to the allantoic diverticulum is cloaca. Okay? Getting? Now, when this gut is developing, simultaneously the circulatory system is also developing, that is the cardiovascular system, and the dorsal aorta is in relation to this developing gut. It sends its branch to the gut. Now this branching of this dorsal aorta gives rise to an artery, that is artery of foregut, artery of midgut, and artery of hindgut. So artery of foregut is named as celiac artery, that is celiac branch of dorsal aorta, whereas the midgut is supplied by the superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery is very important because you see here, this is the picture showing you the midgut loop having its branch from the dorsal aorta, and this branch of dorsal aorta, that is the superior mesenteric artery, divides the midgut into pre-arterial segment and the post-arterial segment. See, it is written over here also. This is pre-arterial and post-arterial. In the post-arterial segment, there develops a bud that is known as cecal bud. It later forms the cecum. Clear up till now? Please respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I have told you that allantoic diverticulum is responsible for the division of hindgut into hindgut and cloaca. So this allantoic diverticulum is opening into the ventral aspect. Ventral aspect is, see, this is the dorsal aspect and this one is the ventral aspect. So allantoic diverticulum enters from here. It is like this in the hindgut and divides the hindgut into cloaca and the hindgut proper. Now this division of hindgut into cloaca by the allantoic diverticulum so the cloaca is dividing into a ventral part and a dorsal part. This is one aspect to show you how the division of cloaca is taking place into the ventral part that forms the urogenital sinus and the dorsal part that is forming the primitive rectum. This demarcating line actually is a septum that is named after the urogenital sinus and rectum as urorectal septum. Okay, so this is urorectal septum which divides the two. See, again in this diagram you can see here, if I enlarge this picture, you'll be able to appreciate that this is allantois, the ventral aspect, and this is the dorsal aspect of the gut. So allantois is entering the hindgut to divide it into cloaca. There's also a duct that is received in the hindgut, is known as mesonephric duct. So अभी क्या होता है कि allantois enters the hindgut and partitions this cloaca into two structures. The things which you have seen in the previous picture. This is the ventral aspect, dorsal aspect. Ventral is forming the urogenital sinus and the dorsal is forming the rectum, which are again separated by two membranes. That is, the cloacal membrane also divides into urogenital membrane and the anal membrane. Okay, so this is one aspect, and you can see the previous slide so that you can very well understand. Ventral aspect, dorsal aspect, urogenital sinus by the ventral part and dorsal part is forming the primitive rectum. Up till now, is it clear? Hello? Is Vishesh not here in the class? Not here. Hello? Okay, fine. So, coming to the derivatives of foregut. Now, foregut is forming, it is related to the stomodium, so it will form the floor of the mouth, tongue, pharynx, pharyngeal pouches and thyroid, along with the esophagus, stomach, duodenum up to the major duodenal papilla. Major duodenal papilla is the second part of duodenum. The cranial part of second part of duodenum is from the foregut only, along with the liver and extrahepatic biliary apparatus, along with the pancreas. You have to mark them up, all the derivatives. Then derivatives of the midgut. Part distal to the major duodenal papilla and the third and fourth parts of duodenum, along with jejunum, ileum, cecum and appendix, ascending colon, and the right 2/3 of transverse colon. The right 2/3 of transverse colon from the midgut, the rest of it from the hindgut. Left 1/3 of transverse colon, along with the descending pelvic, rectum and upper part of anal canal, and the urogenital system, which is derived from the primitive urogenital sinus. Primitive urogenital sinus is, we saw this thing, na? Primitive urogenital sinus. So it is leading to the formation of the derivatives which are from the hindgut, right? Now, when this GIT, that is the intestines and all, are growing, because of the rapid growth and expansion of the liver, what happens is this abdominal cavity becomes too small to contain all the intestinal loops, and they enter the extraembryonic cavity in the umbilical cord during the 6th week of intrauterine life. ये वहीं पर रहते हैं, ये intestinal loops 6th week से 10th week तक वहीं पर रहते हैं extraembryonic coelom में, ठीक है? By the time all these structures they arrange themselves, and when the time comes, they retract back to the abdominal cavity. So this coming out of the intestinal loops through the opening into the extraembryonic coelom is known as physiological umbilical herniation. Otherwise, herniation is basically pathological, but this is physiological because to accommodate every intestinal loop and everything of the intestine in the abdominal cavity, physiological umbilical herniation is a must. क्योंकि सारी चीजें जब ग्रो कर रही होती हैं एक साथ सब ग्रो नहीं कर सकती, तो they come out and allow other structures to grow. At the same time, the increase in size of the abdominal cavity so that it is able to accommodate all the intestinal loops also. This is very important. So you may get a short note on physiological umbilical herniation. Now, by the 10th week, these herniated loops, they begin to return to the abdominal cavity. And this happens because the mesonephric kidney regresses, growth of the liver is also reduced, and abdominal cavity expands, as I've told you. So this portion of the developing GIT is very important. Now, actually, rotation, how the rotation is taking place. This midgut rotation is very important. Initially, क्या होता है कि ये जो herniated loops हैं, they are arranged in the sagittal plane, so that they are lying cranial and caudal. ठीक है, ऐसे होते हैं. If you basically this rotation of midgut is taking place around an artery, that is the superior mesenteric artery. See, you can see the picture over here. This one is the superior mesenteric artery. Okay, this superior mesenteric artery is the thing around which rotation is taking place, and the pre-arterial segment and the post-arterial segment are coordinated in this manner to the artery only. So this pre-arterial segment is shown in yellow and the post-arterial along with the cecal bud is shown in blue. The rotation of midgut basically is 270 degrees of counterclockwise rotation. It's very important. That is why I have highlighted and written it separately. There are 3 rounds of rotation, 90 degree each, and they are counterclockwise rotations, or you can say anti-clockwise rotations. Now, when the loop is lying outside the abdominal cavity after the 6th week of intrauterine life, it is arranged in the sagittal plane and it is like this. This is the superior mesenteric artery. Can you see? This is the pre-arterial segment and this one is the post-arterial segment. The fingers are showing the pre-arterial part and the thumb is post-arterial. Now, from this orientation, that is cranial and caudal part, the pre-arterial and the post-arterial, they go 90 degree of counterclockwise rotation and they become right and left. ठीक है, जब ये राइट एंड लेफ्ट हो जाते हैं तो अभी तक इसमें एक्सपेंशन नहीं था. That is, the pre-arterial part was small as compared to the original adult structure. This pre-arterial segment undergoes expansion like this. Coils of jejunum are formed by that. So this pre-arterial segment undergoes convolutions and dilatations so as to form the jejunum and ileum. And the cecal bud is there in the post-arterial segment. अब ये 90 degree, एक 90 degree turn हो गया. Now this one has caused 90 degree of counterclockwise rotation. Again, there is 90 degree turn of counterclockwise rotation, and this pre-arterial part goes behind the artery and behind the loop of post-arterial segment. As you can see in this diagram, see, there is 90-degree turn. It goes behind the post-arterial segment and behind the superior mesenteric artery. So this is again, now total 180-degree of counterclockwise rotation has taken place. This is not the adult position. To achieve the adult position, again this post-arterial segment has to undergo rotation. And it comes to lie in front of the pre-arterial, the artery. See, this goes behind and this comes in front and takes the turn over here. कुछ समझ में आया? नहीं आया होगा इतना अच्छे से, but still I'll repeat this rotation. Basically 6th week में जो intestinal loops हैं, they come out into the extra embryonic coelom and they lie there for 4 weeks. अब जब वो retract कर रहे होते हैं, तो retraction के लिए क्या होता है? They need to go slowly. एक साथ सारे जाएंगे तो फिर वही पॉच हो जाएगा GI abdominal cavity में. So in order to prevent that, हर बार में एक 90-degree turn होता है. वो 90-degree turn जब हो रहा होता है, तो पहले जो ओरिएंटेशन है वो ऐसे होता है, उसके बाद वो ऐसे हो जाता है, राइट एंड लेफ्ट. उसके बाद प्री आर्टेरियल सेगमेंट का इलोंगेशन होता है, और जब वो इलोंगेट हो जाता है तो another 90-degree of turn takes place to allow the pre-arterial segment to go behind the post-arterial one and behind the artery obviously. Now this post-arterial segment ये ऐसे ही रह गया, हमें उसको अडल्ट फॉर्म में लाना है. कैसे आएगा वो? अगेन एक 90-degree का टर्न आएगा और वो ऐसे करके वो सामने आ जाएगा. ये मेरी साइड से आप देख रहे हैं, मे बी इतना क्लियर ना हो, but still you can assume. I'll try to. Can you see? This is the artery, that is superior mesenteric, pre-arterial segment, post-arterial segment. It is oriented sagittally in the 6th week. जब ये वापस आने लगता है 10th week में, तो meanwhile ये right and left हो जाता है. Now this right and left remains as such, and then this pre-arterial segment, इसमें क्या होता है? आप जैसे फैन बनाते थे बचपन में, it becomes like this. ऐसे हो जाएगा. Elongation हो जाता है, but मैंने ये छोटा इसलिए बनाया because I don't have that much paper. So you can assume this thing. This is pre-arterial now. This is post-arterial. अब ये pre-arterial जो है, ये ऐसे हो जाएगा. It will go behind this. Again 90-degree का जो turn आया, इसके पीछे चला गया ये. और जब ये पीछे चला गया तो एक और 90-degree का जो turn आएगा, उसमें ये आगे आके इधर आ जाएगा. It is getting twisted, but actually जो है वो ये होगा कि ये आगे से आएगा और ये इसके आगे ऐसे आ जाएगा. तो एक आर्टरी के पीछे है और एक आर्टरी के आगे है. This is how the rotation of midgut is taking place. I hope clear हो गया हो, और अगर clear नहीं हुआ तो you can ask me again. Now this I'll show you another picture so that you can get the orientation of this counterclockwise rotation. See, the pre-arterial segment, post-arterial, counterclockwise 90 degree हुआ, ये यहाँ आ गया. ये राइट एंड लेफ्ट हो गया। अब ये राइट एंड लेफ्ट जब हो गया तो ये पार्ट इसके पीछे चला गया, आर्टरी के भी पीछे और प्री आर्टीरियल के भी पीछे, यहाँ है। और उसके बाद ये जो पोस्ट आर्टीरियल था वो इसके आगे आ गया आर्टरी के, अगेन 90 डिग्री ऑफ काउंटर क्लॉकवाइज रोटेशन, right? This is how rotation of gut takes place. And these are the models in the museum which will be there in the examinations. See, this is the developing stomach, pancreas, coils of, this is duodenum, C of duodenum is there. This is the arterial segment and the post-arterial part. And finally, this structure assumes a shape like this. Finally, the cecum lies and descends to the iliac fossa, and the ascending, descending, and transverse colons, they become distinct. Now, there are certain errors of rotation. जैसे हमने और बात करी थी कि rotation like anomalies क्यों होती हैं? Anomalies occur because of either non-fusion or their descent, or they remain small or they increase in size. That is how the things are there in the anomalies. So there are errors of rotation also. There can be non-rotation of the midgut loop, reverse rotation भी हो सकता है. ये जो physiological umbilical herniation हुआ था, ये वापस ही ना जाए. So it is non-return of the umbilical hernia, and this is manifested in the form of exomphalos or omphalocele. Okay. Now you get a short note, or sometimes you get to differentiate between omphalocele and the gastroschisis. So this is exomphalos. Exomphalos in Greek means outside the navel. So this is failure of the bowel to return to the body cavity from its umbilical herniation. That is from the 6th week to 10th week. यहाँ पे जो return होता है, जिसकी वजह से rotation start होता है, that doesn't happen. So this is the body wall, and this structure is covered by amnion. The basic difference between the omphalocele and the gastroschisis is this only. The coils of intestine जो है, they are covered by amnion. Okay. Whereas in case of gastroschisis, the herniation of this abdominal contents is directly into the amniotic cavity. वो umbilicus के laterally होता है, usually to the right side, because of the weakened area that is formed by the regression of the right umbilical vein. ठीक है? Right umbilical vein जो है usually disappear हो जाती है ना, उसकी जो एक weakening होती है, वहां से herniation हो जाता है abdominal contents से, और they are not covered by peritoneum or amnion. So जब ये covered नहीं होते हैं, तो bowel loops they may get exposed to amniotic fluid, and this is increasing in women due to the use of cocaine. I'll show you a video how this rotation of the midgut is taking place. Okay, wait, I'll stop this sharing and show you a video from the source itself. Can you see?
Ma'am.
So I hope it is clear now with the videos. Okay, attend your roll calls fast and then we'll end up the class. Today is 19. Tell me your roll numbers one by one and then I'll mark the attendance.
Ma'am, roll number 20, Shifa Khan.
Roll number 20.
ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, roll number 13, Alvira Alam. Ma'am, roll number 13, Alvira Alam.
Yeah, got it, Elvira. Next.
Ma'am, 17, Anjali.
Anjali.
43.
G.
Swapnil Saxena, roll number 7.
Roll number 7 is Swapnil Saxena. Okay. Who is
Roll number 43.
one by one, please?
Ma'am, roll number 43.
43.
Roll number 44, Achal.
Gagan and Anchal.
Ma'am, 45.
Tahura. Who's next? Who is next?
Ma'am, roll number 42, Faraz Hassan.
Faraz Hassan. Okay, next.
Roll number 76, Mehwish Salim.
Mehwish Salim.
Ma'am, roll number 74, Fatma Heather.
Fatima Heather.
Ma'am, roll number 73.
Sorry. Just a minute. I marked it wrong. Fatima Heather next. Who is next?
And roll number 67, Vishesh Single.
Vishesh Singhal. Next.
Ma'am, roll number 73,
Ma'am, roll
Talha.
number 66.
73 is Talha Noor. 66
Yes,
is Tanya Tomar.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's next?
55, Zainab Wahab.
Zainab Wahab. Okay, next.
Roll number 84.
84 Zahida Iram. Who is next?
Roll number 90.
90 is Mariam Salim.
Yes,
Ma'am,
Next,
roll number 94.
Tasneem Fatima.
Yes, ma'am.
Roll
Next.
number 97.
97 Shavez Hussain.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is next?
Roll number 107, Zainab Rahman.
Zainab. There are two Zainabs in the class, I think. Huh?
I'm 3 actually.
3. Okay. Who else?
Roll number 113.
113 is Rashid Halim. Okay, next.
Ma'am, roll number 114, Ambreen Tayyib.
Next,
Ma'am, roll number 116, Afshar Ahmed.
Afsar Ahmad. Next. Who is next?
Ma'am, roll number 124, Zainab Javed. 124, Zainab Javed.
Zainab Javed. Next.
Ma'am, roll number
147.
147. Vinay Bharadwaj.
Ma'am,
Then
129. Roll number 129.
129. Faiza Siddiqui.
Yes, ma'am.
Next.
roll number 143.
Roll number just 44.
Ma'am, 143.
143 is Fariha Tanveer.
Yes, ma'am.
44 कौन है? 44 बोला? 144.
Ma'am,
भव्या गर्ग.
144.
Okay, next.
Ma'am, 146.
ज्योति शर्मा.
Yes, ma'am.
और
Ma'am, 21, Anushka Dwivedi.
Anushka. Just 21.
Yes, ma'am.
Anushka Dwivedi. Okay. Next. Who else?
Ma'am, 151, Shreya.
151 is Shreya. Okay. Who else? Anyone else? हो गया सबका? Okay, fine. Okay, Shreya. You can leave. Thank you for the class.